Good evening and welcome to KTN Weekend Prime, the point of news this day, the 13th of June 2015. Unfortunately, I'm flying solo as Yvonne Okwara is away on assignment both today and tomorrow, so I'll be handling checkpoint in her stead. But tonight, we have one heck of a treat for you, a seminal documentary on boxing called The Last Fight. Now, if you've been following pugilism in this country, then you'll know that at one point in Kenya's history, boxing was one of those sports like athletics that made the country shine. Why is boxing in the doldrums as we speak? Why is it that there are no longer the likes of DK Kamau and Robert Wangila who fly our flags high in the boxing ring? What is happening to the state of boxing? A documentary that's been done over 2 years, profiling the struggle of two boxing clubs to be able to keep those clubs afloat and open in the face of rampant corruption. This is a documentary that you do not want to miss if you want to know how corruption crushes dreams and how boxing has been brutalized by graft. This running tonight on KTN Weekend Prime, but of course we have been covering stories from you from across the country. Here are now the highlights on KTN Weekend Prime.
We know they are targeting certain institutions of learning, some churches, markets, shopping malls, among others.
Watch out during the holy month. Boynet issues alert over possible terror attacks.
We are telling everyone that Northern Kenya is a very good place to live.
This is our message. 50 youth begin 29-day walk to Somalia border as a message of peace.
The supremacy of Parliament is overplayed, actually interferes with the concept of democracy in our country.
The National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya has been created under Article 95 of the Constitution, and it can never be intimidated.
Sasa kama mtu anakuja kwa ofisi yako kama Mheshimiwa Mwaura anataka kusaidia wanamabu, namwambia kwenda huko, hii si political bureau, na wewe utakuwa head of cabinet secretary na coordinate wizara zote, utasaidia watu namna gani?
Monica Juma's rejection. Face-off continues as Nkaiseri defends his embattled PS. And this is who we are. Kenyans join the rest of the world on Albinism Awareness Day. Thank you once again for joining us on the Point of News tonight. Definitely a bulletin that you want to watch. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Awiti. And we begin with a warning from Vigilance House. The Inspector General of the National Police Service, Joseph Boynet, has issued a security alert warning of plans by the Al-Shabaab to execute several terror attacks in the month of Ramadan. Boynet disclosed that security agencies across the country are on high alert and are carrying out operations in major towns along the Kenya-Somalia border to prevent potential attacks.
As the holy month of Ramadan approaches, the police boss has warned of plans by Al-Shabaab fighters and their sympathizers to launch nefarious attacks in northern Kenya, Nairobi, Mombasa and other major towns.
Some of their wicked plans include targeting government installations, security personnel themselves, including even journalists who report negatively about them, for the purposes of sowing the discord and undermining the very nationhood of this republic. We know they are targeting certain institutions of learning, some churches, markets, shopping malls, among others.
The police boss says security alertness has been raised across the country to counter terrorists.
In the same breath, wish to appeal to members of the public to exercise extra alertness during this period.
We sample responses from a cross-section of Kenyans on the security alert.
Haswa kama hapa Nairobi wangekuwa wameweka zile roadblocks, wanakagua kama kule zile entering zile points za kuenter Nairobi na kutoka, wanaweka hizo roadblocks na zinakuwa serious vile hivi kwamba kunaweka hata CCTV karibu, sababu pia hawa wanafanya hizo roadblocks ndio wanatuza. Nakuta wenyewe wanapitisha hizo vitu.
Security starts with me and you. You don't have to wait for the government to come in and tell you be cautious.
Boynet says the government was closely monitoring the refugee camps in northern Kenya after intelligence reports showed that the camps have often acted as safe havens for terrorists.
I want to thank wananchi who have continued to give us useful information that has helped us to preempt many criminal acts, foil very many terrorist plots that has led to the arrest of many of the perpetrators, including their collaborators.
In the meantime, the police boss has asked traffic police officers in charge of way bridges who were recently transferred to report to their new stations or face disciplinary action. Some officers have gone to court to challenge transfer of their 99 colleagues, claiming the transfers were abrupt and meant to punish them.
But as we comply with the law and whatever orders our courts issue, we also do have our own service standing orders. It includes an obligation to obey lawful commands. So anybody disobeying lawful commands, any police officer for that matter, knows the consequences of that action or inaction.
This is not the first case where police officers manning way bridges are resisting transfers through the courts. In March 2013, 29 officers based at the Mariakani Way Bridge went to court to stop then police boss David Kimayo from transferring them to new stations. Patrick Amimo, KTN Weekend Prime.
More than 50 youth in Garissa County today started out on a walk that is expected to go on for 29 days. The Peace Walk, dubbed the Walk of Hope, is a way of raising their voices against the perennial problems facing northern Kenya, like insecurity and what they term as neglect by their government. Fatma Pole brings us this story.
They first assembled for a word of prayer, later followed by words of wisdom and motivation from the elders, and then it's all systems go.
And to be vigilant for the need of peace and be advising all those around you.
Without peace, nothing can go anywhere. Without peace, there can be no development, and without peace, there can be no harmony.
Kenya is one, and united we stand.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
It is the day for the much anticipated walk dubbed the Walk of Hope, a peace walk that has brought together men and women from all sectors of the country. This group is determined to walk for 29 days in hopes of finding a solution to the never-ending problems rocking northern Kenya.
The objective of this walk is to restore hope in northern Kenya. We are not raising funds for any project. We are on a mission to sensitize the public. We are telling everyone that northern Kenya is a very good place to live. There are people, it's not a barren land. And it has its challenges. We like to highlight the challenges as well as the positive aspects of this part of the country.
Mariam Hassan Duale is a student from Egerton University. She traveled all the way to join the procession from Garissa to Mandera County. A journey that has all the potential of getting dangerous, but one she's willing to embark on. So they walk on this same path that has been walked on by the militants who have robbed the county of peace and many young lives. But still they soldier on.
Yeah, definitely we are scared about Al-Shabaab. Go for both sides, Al-Shabaab and Al-Sari. So we decided to walk from Garissa to Mandera.
This walk is a sacrifice by Kenyans who have had enough and the first of its kind in the region.
We are not seeing any leader, any governor, and we are very much disappointed with that.
Those participating hope that each step will bring them closer to peace and prosperity for northern Kenya. Fatma Pole, KTN.
Definitely a noble walk there. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri has come to the defense of his former Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Monica Juma. In her defense, Nkaiseri says the letter forming the basis of Monica Juma's rejection actually helped in streamlining engagement between the legislators and his office. But the National Assembly Majority Leader Adan Duale has told off those criticizing Parliament for rejecting Dr. Juma, saying that no one can tell the House how to do business.
Expressing his disappointment over the National Assembly's rejection of Dr. Monica Juma, the Principal Secretary's boss says Monica Juma has restored sanity at the office of the President and has also sacrificed at the political altar of self-interest and deceit. The Interior CS claiming the letter to the clerks of Parliament that caused rejection of Dr. Monica Juma, contrary to MP's assertions, has actually transformed engagement between parliamentarians and the OP. That since drafting the letter, MPs are allowed unlimited access at the OP every Wednesday. Nkaiseri crediting the new structured manner of engagement to the Principal Secretary. The Interior CS urging the President to resubmit Monica Juma's name, challenging Parliament to rise above petty partisan politics in the vetting exercise. The Monica Juma rejection backlash is now fodder for institutional wars. Parliament is picking up a fight with the Constitution Implementation Commission after the Commission threatened to sue the Assembly for what they termed as abuse of power.
We on our part intend to seek legal action, such legal action as may be necessary, to ensure that those who have abused their offices in this manner are dealt with in accordance with the law, including being deemed unsuitable to hold public office.
And if indeed the court does make a finding that there was an abuse of power, it is our hope that then we would be seeking to say that those who signed the committee recommendation be held accountable for that abuse of power and be declared unfit to be in public office.
The National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya, it can never be intimidated by institutions that were created by the same National Assembly, and some of the players were vetted by the same house. When legislating, even as you have the power to legislate on matters on national standards and policies, please let us not use raw power for the sake of using it.
She may have her weaknesses, but I think that it is very fair to deny her the opportunity to serve the people of this country merely because she has said no to members of Parliament and she was not given a chance to sufficiently defend herself.
In the wake of the backlash elicited by the National Assembly's decision on Monica Juma, MPs are smarting from public furor generated, putting on a brave face on account of executing their legislative agenda.
Of course, Parliament has the right to make an appointment or a disappointment. It can be based on fact or just because they don't like the shape of your nose. That is the law. They can do it. But on this specific one, I think it was not the best way.
Sasa kama mtu anakuja kwa ofisi yako kama Mheshimiwa Mwaura anataka kusaidia walemavu, unamwambia kwenda huko, hii si political bureau, na wewe utakuwa head of cabinet secretary, una coordinate wizara zote, utasaidia watu namna gani?
As many as that opinion say aye.
The President is expected to submit another nominee for the position of Secretary to the Cabinet. Samogina, KTN.
As MPs from across the aisle seem to have found bilateral praise or have found agreement with respect to the rejection of Monica Juma, there are politicians that are counseling peace in politics, and that is Deputy President William Ruto as well as Hassan Ali Joho, who shared a platform today with Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho in a rally in Taveta town where they asked for political tolerance. The two leaders, who were hosted by Taita Taveta Governor John Murutu, asked political leaders to suspend competitive politics to allow for implementation of important projects. The Mombasa Governor asked the national government to give conditional grants to counties to enable them to construct roads.
Nataka niseme, na kwa sababu naibu wa rais yuko hapa, katiba imepatia milango mingi na inasema wakati kuna mahitaji zaidi, na kwa sababu hawa ni wadosi na wako na pesa mingi zaidi kuliko ile account, maeneo mengine mtupatie zile conditional grant. Kama hii mnafanya ya hospitali, hata zingine za barabara pia, there's nothing that stops you from saying jengeni barabara, county pesa tumeongeza hizi. Hakuna agenda ingine, agenda ni kutumikia wananchi, sivyo?
Hivi sasa hatuko tena kwa kutafuta kura. Hivi sasa wananchi wote wanachotaka ni huduma kwa kutoka kwa viongozi wote ambao walichaguliwa.
Na tumejipanga sawa sawa. Sisi ni hapa karibu. Ala. Ama namna gani?
sawa sawa, kwa sababu mtihani tutafanyiwa 2017. Wale wenye kutenda watafanyiwa mtihani na wale wenye hadithi pia watakuwa na mtihani. Ama namna gani? Tunaelewana? Watu watapeta, tuko pamoja, tumekubaliana. Mnasema sisi viongozi tushirikiane, tufanye kazi pamoja, ama mnasema namna gani? Tushirikiane, sio tufanye kazi pamoja, kwa sababu serikali ni moja na Kenya ni moja, na tunataka kushirikia viongozi na wananchi wa Kenya kwa pamoja.
Let's now switch gears now to something positive done by Kenyans who joined the rest of the world in celebrating the first ever International Albinism Awareness Day. And as KTN's Timothy Otieno reports, the event brought together families with not only a common skin color, but also a united stand.
The band builds up a tune and the people start the march. It's a procession that made its way from the KICC through City Hall Way to Taifa Road, then Harambe Avenue to Parliament Road, and finally back to KICC. It was a march of not only solidarity, but also a representation of the pride and the common bond that the albinism community in Kenya share. And out of the huge numbers here, Winrose Simiyu gleefully takes a photo with her two bundles of joy. 1.5-year-old twins Aldrin and Adrian are lucky to be in the arms of their mother after a failed attempt on them last week by a neighbor who tried to kidnap them.
Nilipompeleleza sana na kumuuliza, aliweza kusema ya kwamba la si hivyo, ningetaka tuuze hawa watoto, mwanamke mjinga ambao umekalia mamilioni ya pesa na huku unalia shida.
This is the first time the event is being held on a global scale, this following a resolution by the UN Council in October last year to have June the 13th as the International Albinism Awareness Day.
Ulemavu sio kulemaa, ni kunyanyapaiwa. Negative attitude is the greatest challenge that we have for people with disabilities.
We've come to a time as a country that we cannot have a second-class citizen. We cannot have a first-class and a second-class citizen. Ningependa kueleza hata nyinyi mwende nyumbani mkijua, mkiona mheshimiwa Mwaura mkafikiria ati yeye peke yake ndo anawakilisha, mjue mko na mtetezi mwingine anaitwa Sakaja Johnson. Sawa sawa.
According to research, there is 1 in every 17,000 people globally living with albinism, and in Kenya that number is on a steady rise. The family of George Kamau knows that too well. They have had 2 children with albinism. Last year, the Kenyan government allocated nearly 100 million shillings to persons living with disabilities, those with albinism included. Funds that can go a long way in helping them live a better life.
A lot needs to be done in terms of legislation, in terms of protection, in terms of security of those who are affected.
The people present today here at the KICC grounds to celebrate the International Day of Albinism perhaps represent over 5,000 Kenyans who live with the condition in the country, and they say that if such events are held annually, then they can overcome all stigma that society may bring up against them. Timothy Otieno, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, in the wake of the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, the biggest purse in boxing history, we've all considered how far boxing has come in terms of how much it pays the boxers themselves. But in Kenya, there is a boxer who has flown around the world, represented this country and won medals for this country, who works at Ukulima Market because he cannot afford to live on his boxer's salary. That story coming up in the last fight. Keep your comments coming in on that documentary. Stay tuned, it's coming up shortly, and the hashtag is The Last Fight. Coming up after the break on KTN Weekend Prime with a few stories, of course. Back after the break on A Point of News.
A very good evening and welcome to today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Starting us off, Kenya's chances of qualifying for the Rugby Africa Cup took a nosedive after Simba suffered a 28-20 loss to Zimbabwe in Harare. The loss means that Kenya must win her next game against Tunisia in 2 weeks. Elsewhere in Nairobi, Kenya A started off its Elgon Cup title defense with a narrow 2017 win over Uganda. Robinson Okenya with more details on that.
As the national 15er side was busy in Zimbabwe in Harare in Africa Cup qualifier, Kenya A team took on Uganda in the annual Elgon Cup with the intention of kicking off its title defense on a delightful note. With both teams failing to cross the whitewash at the quarter-hour mark, the Ugandans took it upon themselves to break the deadlock as fly-half Chris Lubanga put the Cranes 3-0 up through a converted penalty. For a period, both teams looked even before Edwin Makori grabbed the first try of the game to give Kenya a 5-3 lead heading into halftime. After the breather, Kenya came back a rejuvenated side, but finding an edge over Cranes proved to be a challenge. Aiden Aguero's penalty could not add to Kenya's advantage as the posts denied him. Cyprian Kuto, however, had other plans as he doubled Kenya's lead. Moments later, Alvin Otieno had Kenyan fans on their feet as his try gave Kenya a 15-3 advantage. Cranes cut the deficit by 7 points before Kuto grabbed his second try of the match to give Kenya a 2017 win.
I would like to congratulate Kenya for the win. Yes, they played really well. They had a good structure going.
We want to go down to a dogfight in Kampala. I know it's going to be tough, but we're going to come back.
Earlier on, Kenya ladies played to a 5-all draw with Uganda.
With Kenya winning today's tie by a slight margin, the challenge now lies ahead as Kenya will play Uganda away in 2 weeks' time. Robinson Okenya, KTN Sports.
Thank you, Robinson, for that piece. Now, St. Peter's Mumias ended their 5-year search for national secondary school rugby title as they claimed the 7th title at the secondary school's Term 2B games in Nyeri today. St. Peter's won a 19-7 against the Kangaroo in the main cup finals. It was the first national crown for Nzoia region champions who locked out a 2013 champions Kakamega High School in the regional final. All girls from Musinga and the Kimilili boys retained their handball titles. In a grueling boys finals encounter, champions Kimilili were made to sweat for a 32-24 victory against newcomers St. Peter's of Mau region. Kimilili began on a low note, allowing debutants St. Peter's to take on an early lead and seize the first half of 15-13. Kimilili turned the tables in the second half as they... Algeria women's volleyball team sent warning messages to Malkia Strikers of Kenya, and that's ahead of the huge clash tomorrow, the African Feminine Championships. Algeria started well against Botswana by taking the opening set at 25-17. They however switched off in the second set and Botswana capitalized to win at 25-17. Algeria reawakened to win the final in 2 sets at 25-20 and 25-15. Botswana and Mauritius are meet tomorrow in the second match, while Kenya meets Algeria at 4 p.m. in the highlight match of the day. Kenya defeated Mauritius in 3 straight sets on Friday night, and the team Kenya now understands the job in their hands on Sunday.
Our target is to win all matches, and this is our first win. First games are always very important. It's going to give us the morale to continue fighting on.
From this match, we've learned that all teams are good teams, are strong teams, and they have come to compete. So we'll take each team seriously.
And with that, we wrap up our today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Keep it KTN.
KTN Weather in association with More Team Do.
It's just about time for me to leave studio, but not before I introduce the documentary that you have all been waiting for. The hashtag is right down there, The Last Fight. Now, if you're a sports fan, and more especially a boxing fan, then you will know that boxing is perhaps the purest expression of a person's will to triumph against another person. There is no red card, there is no tag team, there's just two men or two women in one ring facing it off for about 12 rounds, or until one person gets knocked out. And we've heard names like Rocky Marciano over the years, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, now Floyd Money Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao gracing the world stages of pugilism to bring you the excitement that is boxing. And alongside them for quite some time in the 60s, 70s and even the 80s, Kenya stood toe to toe with the world as boxing champions, bringing glory to this country as a sporting nation as we do in other disciplines. But what happened? What happened to the likes of Robert Wangila, the likes of Suleiman Bilali or Conjestina Acheng, who we've heard about recently? What happened to boxing? Now, KTN has partnered with a content house to bring you a documentary that they shot over 13 months, profiling the struggle of two boxing houses, some of the strongest back then in Kenya, to be able to keep their doors open. And the answer to that question as to why boxing is where it is today can be answered in one word, or at least two: graft and neglect. Here now is The Last Fight, a documentary that will open your eyes to the struggles that Kenyans who have flown our flags high now live in squalor. Watch.